The stars looked different from the bridge of the UCS Meridian. Captain Jake Morrison had been staring at them for the past hour, trying to wrap his mind around the fact that somewhere out there, aliens were waiting to meet them. Real aliens. Not the stuff of movies or books, but actual living beings from another world. "Captain, we're getting another transmission," called Pete Johnson from his station. The communications officer had been receiving messages from the Alien Federation for 3 days now, each one more detailed than the last. This one's got coordinates and meeting protocols. Jake turned away from the viewport and walked over to Pete's station. The message was displayed on the screen in perfect English, though Jake knew it had been translated by computers more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. The aliens had learned human languages by studying old television and radio, signals that had been drifting through space for decades. "They want to meet at a space station," Pete said, reading from the screen. "It's called Harmony Station, and it's in orbit around the 4th planet in this system." Dr. Lisa Parker looked up from her research station. She had been the mission's chief scientist for 2 years, ever since the project began. Her job was to study alien life forms and figure out how they worked. So far, she had only been able to study data and images sent by the aliens themselves. "What else does the message say?" she asked, walking over to join them. Pete scrolled through the text. "They're excited to meet us. They say they've been watching Earth for a long time, but they never tried to make contact because they thought our planet was too dangerous." "Dangerous?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "What do they mean by that?" "It says here that several of their exploration teams tried to visit Earth over the past few hundred years, but none of them made it back. They assumed the planet was uninhabitable. Because of the high number of predators," Lisa laughed. "Predators? I mean, sure, we have some dangerous animals, but humans have been living on Earth for thousands of years. We've learned how to deal with them." "Maybe they're more sensitive to danger than we are," Jake suggested. "Different species, different tolerance levels." The conversation was interrupted by Dr. Alan Cooper, the mission's expert on human culture and behavior. His job was to help the aliens understand how humans thought and acted, and to help humans understand the aliens in return. "Captain, I've been reading through all the messages we've received," Alan said, holding a tablet computer. "There's something interesting I want to show you." He pulled up a series of images on the tablet. They showed different alien species, each one labeled with a name and basic information. The first image showed a tall, thin being with pale, almost transparent skin and large eyes. The text identified it as a Threnody. "This is Commander Zelek," Alan explained. "He's the one who's been sending us most of the messages." "Look at this description of his species," Jake read the text aloud. "The Threnody are a peaceful species known for their advanced technology and diplomatic skills. They have ruled the Kepler sector for over 800 years without engaging in warfare." "Now look at this one," Alan said, swiping to the next image. This showed a creature that looked like it was wearing heavy armor, with thick limbs and a broad chest. "This is General Kornak of the Bruthan species," Lisa read the description this time. "The Bruthan are the military leaders of the Galactic Federation. They are known for their strength and their ability to survive in harsh environments. They have successfully defended Federation space against numerous threats." "Here's what's interesting," Alan continued. "Every single species in this Federation is described as peaceful, diplomatic, or defensive. None of them are described as aggressive or predatory. It's like they've all evolved to avoid conflict rather than engage in it." Jake thought about this for a moment. That would explain why they think Earth is dangerous. If they're all naturally peaceful, they might not be able to handle the kind of wildlife we're used to. "It's more than that," Alan said. "Look at the descriptions of their home planets." He showed them images of various alien worlds. Each one looked beautiful and calm. There were vast forests with gentle creatures, peaceful oceans with harmless fish, and wide grasslands where different species grazed together without conflict. "These places look like paradise," Lisa said. "No wonder they think Earth is dangerous. Compared to these worlds, Earth must seem like a nightmare." Pete's computer beeped with another incoming message. We're getting close to the meeting point, he announced. They're asking for our final approach vector. Jake returned to his captain's chair and pressed a button to open communication with the entire ship. This is Captain Morrison. All hands, prepare for first contact. We'll be meeting with representatives from the Galactic Federation in approximately 2 hours. Remember, we're not just representing ourselves or our ship. We're representing all of humanity. The next 2 hours passed quickly. The crew made final preparations, checking equipment and reviewing protocols. Dr. Parker gathered her research materials while Dr. Cooper prepared his cultural exchange presentations. Pete tested the communication systems to make sure they would be able to talk with the aliens without any problems. As they approached Harmony Station, Jake was amazed by its size and beauty. The station was enormous, easily 10 times larger than any structure humans had ever built in space. It was shaped like a flower, with multiple arms extending from a central hub. Each arm seemed to be designed for a different species, with different atmospheric requirements and gravity levels. Incoming transmission, Pete announced. It's Commander Zelek. The main screen flickered to life, and suddenly they were looking at their first live alien. Commander Zelek appeared to be standing in a room similar to their own bridge, though everything looked more organic and curved than the straight lines and angles of human design. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Zelek said. His voice carried a musical quality that the translation system couldn't quite capture. "We are honored to finally meet you face to face." "Thank you, Commander," Jake replied. "We're excited to be here and to learn more about your Federation. We have prepared quarters for your delegation aboard our station," Zelek continued. "We understand that your species requires specific atmospheric conditions, and we have made the necessary adjustments." "That's very kind of you," Jake said. "We're ready to come aboard whenever you are." "Before we proceed," Zelek said, his large eyes seeming to focus more intently on the screen, "we must ask about your homeworld. Our records indicate that Earth has an unusually high concentration of predatory species. How did your people manage to survive and develop civilization under such conditions?" Jake glanced at Dr. Parker, who shrugged slightly. "We've learned to adapt," he said. "Humans have always been good at solving problems and finding ways to survive." "Fascinating," Zelek murmured. "You speak of survival as if it were a simple matter." "Our expedition teams reported encounters with creatures of extraordinary ferocity. Great beasts with massive claws, swift hunters with razor-sharp teeth, and venomous serpents capable of killing within minutes." "You mean bears and wolves and snakes?" Lisa asked, stepping into view of the camera. "Those are just part of the natural ecosystem. We've learned to live alongside them." The expression on Zelek's face changed, though it was hard for the humans to interpret exactly what emotion he was showing. "You live alongside them?" he asked quietly. "Sure," Lisa said. "I mean, we're careful and we respect their space, but they're not really that dangerous if you know what you're doing." There was a long pause before Zelek spoke again. "We look forward to learning more about your remarkable species," he said. "Finally, prepare for docking. History is about to be made." As the transmission ended, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something important about themselves and their place in the galaxy. The aliens seemed genuinely amazed that humans had survived on Earth, but to Jake and his crew, it had never seemed like that big of a deal. Soon they would learn just how wrong they were about that. The docking bay of Harmony Station was unlike anything the human crew had ever seen. The walls curved in smooth, flowing lines that seemed to pulse with a soft, organic light. The air smelled faintly of flowers and something else Jake couldn't identify. Everything was designed to be peaceful and welcoming, from the gentle music playing in the background to the warm colors that seemed to shift slightly as they moved. Commander Zelek was waiting for them at the airlock, along with 5 other beings that Jake assumed were representatives from different species. Each one looked completely different from the others, but they all shared something Jake couldn't quite put his finger on. They all seemed calm, almost fragile, despite their obvious intelligence and technological advancement. "Welcome aboard Harmony Station," Zelek said, his voice even more musical in person than it had been over the communication system. "Allow me to introduce our delegation." He gestured to a heavily armored figure standing nearby. "This is General Cornick of the Bruthen. He leads our military forces and has extensive experience with dangerous situations." General Cornick stepped forward, and Jake could hear the soft whir of mechanical systems within his armor. Despite his intimidating appearance, his movements were careful and precise, almost hesitant. "It is an honor to meet the survivors of Earth," he said, his voice coming through speakers built into his helmet. "Survivors?" Dr. Cooper asked, raising an eyebrow. "That's an interesting way to put it." The other aliens were introduced in turn. There was Dr. Minra of the Kalari, a floating, jellyfish-like creature who communicated through color changes in her transparent body. Captain Nex of the Vorthak looked like a large insect with multiple arms and compound eyes. Engineer Zeoloft of the Kepler race resembled a small, furry mammal with large ears and quick movements. Finally, there was Counselor Vex of the Harmony species, who appeared to be made of living crystal that reflected light in beautiful patterns. "We have prepared a conference room for our discussions," Zelik explained, leading them through corridors that seemed to adjust their lighting and temperature as they walked. "We are eager to learn about your species and your remarkable homeworld." The conference room was circular, with seating arranged so that everyone could see each other easily. The humans took their places, and Jake noticed that all the alien representatives seemed to be sitting as far from the humans as possible while still being polite. "Perhaps we should begin with introductions," Dr. Cooper suggested. "I'm Dr. Alan Cooper, and I study human culture and behavior. This is Captain Jake Morrison, our mission commander. Dr. Lisa Parker studies life forms and biology. Pete Johnson handles our communications." "Tell us about your worlds," Jake said, settling back in his chair. "We'd love to learn about where you come from." General Cornack seemed to straighten up with pride. "The Bruthen homeworld is Korthax Prime, a planet of great mountains and deep valleys. We have built our cities into the mountainsides, protected by natural barriers, and are advanced." "Defensive systems?" "Defensive systems?" Pete asked. "What do you need to defend against?" "The wildlife, of course," Cornick replied, as if this should be obvious. "Our planet is home to several dangerous predators. The most fearsome are the Iron Tusks, massive creatures that can grow to the size of your human vehicles. They have thick, metallic hide that can deflect energy weapons and tusks that can pierce through solid rock." The humans exchanged glances. Jake tried to imagine creatures the size of cars with metal skin and had to admit that sounded pretty dangerous. "We Bruthen have survived countless encounters with these beasts," Cornick continued, his voice filled with pride. "Our ancestors learned to build weapons capable of penetrating their hide, and we developed tactics for hunting them in groups. It took us thousands of years to make our planet safe for civilization." "That's impressive," Lisa said. "How big do these iron tusks get?" "The largest recorded specimen was approximately 4 meters in length and weighed nearly 2 tons, Cornick replied. "A single iron tusk can destroy an entire settlement if it becomes aggressive." Captain Nex clicked his mandibles in what seemed to be agreement. "The Vorthak face similar challenges on our homeworld. We must constantly defend against the shadow flyers, creatures that attack from the sky without warning. They are nearly invisible against the dark sky of our world, and their claws can slice through metal." "How big are they?" Dr. Cooper asked. "They have a wingspan of nearly 3 meters, Dex said proudly. "And they hunt in flocks of up to 50 individuals. My people have developed sophisticated detection systems and aerial defenses to protect our cities." Dr. Minra's body shifted to a proud shade of gold. "The Kellari homeworld presents different challenges. We live in floating cities above oceans filled with depth stalkers, creatures that can attack from below without warning. They are massive, nearly 20 meters long, with tentacles that can reach up to grab prey from the surface." 20 meters? Jake said, genuinely impressed. "That's pretty big." "Indeed," Minra replied, her colors shifting to indicate satisfaction. We have learned to build our cities high above the water, connected by bridges that the depth stalkers cannot reach. It took us centuries to master the technology needed to stay safe. Engineer Zoloff chittered excitedly. The Kepler homeworld has perhaps the most dangerous predators of all. The tunnel worms can grow to enormous size and burrow through solid rock. They hunt by feeling vibrations through the ground, and they can emerge anywhere without warning. How big do they get? Lisa asked, though she was starting to notice a pattern in these stories. The largest ever recorded was nearly 15 meters long, Zoloff said proudly. They can swallow a full-grown Kepler in a single bite. We have learned to build our cities on platforms that float above the ground, connected by energy bridges that produce no vibrations. Counselor Vex's crystalline form chimed softly. The Harmony homeworld has its own unique dangers. We face the storm spirits, beings of pure energy that can appear during electrical storms. They can possess our technology and turn it against us. That sounds terrifying, Pete said. How do you defend against something like that? We have learned to build all our technology with special shielding that prevents energy possession, Vex replied, his crystal form glowing with pride. We also have early warning systems that allow us to shut down all technology when storm spirits are detected. The aliens continued sharing their stories, each one trying to top the others with tales of the dangerous predators they had faced and conquered. Jake listened politely, but he couldn't help noticing that despite their pride in surviving these encounters, all of their solutions seemed to involve hiding, running away, or building barriers. What about your world? Commander, Zelek asked finally. We have heard legends of Earth's predators, but we would like to hear from survivors themselves. What are these creatures like? Jake thought for a moment. Well, we have bears, I suppose. They're pretty big and have sharp claws. Bears? General Kornek leaned forward. Tell us about these bears. They're large mammals covered in fur, Lisa explained. The biggest ones can weigh about 800 pounds. They have sharp claws and teeth, and they're very strong. The aliens were listening intently now, their various forms of body language suggesting intense interest. How do you defend against them? Dex asked. We don't really defend against them, Jake said. We just try to avoid them. Most of the time they avoid us too. They're not really interested in hunting humans unless we bother them or get between them and their food. You don't defend against them. Kornek's voice carried a note of disbelief. How do you survive? We're careful, Pete said with a shrug. We make noise when we're hiking so they know we're coming. We store our food properly when we're camping. Most bears will just leave you alone if you don't give them a reason to bother you. But surely you have weapons? Minra asked, her colors shifting to what might have been confusion. Some people carry bear spray, Lisa said. It's like a pepper spray that scares them away. Hunters sometimes carry rifles, but most people just use common sense. The silence in the room was becoming uncomfortable. Jake looked around at the alien faces and realized that something was very wrong with this conversation. What other predators do you face? Zelek asked quietly. Well, there are wolves, Dr. Cooper said. They're pack hunters, but they almost never attack humans. Sharks in the ocean, but they're not really interested in people either. Mountain lions, but they're very shy and usually run away when they see humans. And you live on the same planet as all of these creatures? Kornek asked. Of course, Jake said. Where else would we live? The aliens exchanged looks that clearly said they thought the humans were either lying or completely insane. Perhaps, Zelek said carefully, you could show us some images of these creatures? Dr. Parker pulled out her tablet and began scrolling through photos. Sure, here's a brown bear I photographed last year during a research trip to Alaska. She held up the tablet and the reaction was immediate. General Kornak's armor made a sound like all the systems were shutting down at once. Dr. Minra's body flashed through a rapid sequence of colors that suggested panic. Captain Nex's compound eyes seemed to focus on the image with what could only be described as horror. That's a brown bear, Lisa said, not noticing the alien's reaction. The silence in the conference room stretched on uncomfortably. Jake watched as the alien representatives continued to stare at Dr. Parker's tablet with what could only be described as terror. He had seen that same look before, but never in response to a photograph of a bear fishing for salmon. "Is there something wrong with the image?" Dr. Cooper asked, genuinely confused by their reaction. Commander Zalek's large eyes were fixed on the tablet screen. "That creature ... it's enormous. Those claws must be capable of tearing through metal, and those teeth..." His voice trailed off as if he couldn't find words to express what he was seeing. "It's just a brown bear," Lisa said, still not understanding the problem. "They're actually one of the more gentle predators on Earth. This one was probably just trying to catch fish for dinner." "Gentle?" General Cornak's voice came out as a mechanical whisper. "You call that thing gentle?" Jake looked at the image on the tablet again, trying to see it through alien eyes. It was a perfectly normal photograph of a brown bear standing in a stream, water dripping from its fur, a salmon in its mouth. The bear looked relaxed, almost peaceful. "Maybe we should show them some of our smaller predators," Pete suggested, thinking he was being helpful. Work our way up gradually." "Good idea," Lisa said, scrolling through her photos. "Here's a wolf pack I observed in Yellowstone last summer." She held up the tablet again, and this time Dr. Minra's body flashed bright red before quickly fading to what looked like a sick yellow color. Captain Nex made a clicking sound that might have been distress, and Engineer Zaloff dove under the table. "These are wolves," Lisa explained, pointing to the screen. "They're pack hunters, but they're actually quite intelligent. They have complex social structures and they communicate with each other through howling." "How many are in that image?" Zelek asked, his voice barely audible. "About 8, Lisa replied. "This was a fairly large pack. They were hunting elk." "8 of them," Cornick repeated, "working together. Coordinated attack patterns." "Well, yes," Dr. Cooper said. "They're very social animals. They work together to bring down prey much larger than themselves." The aliens exchanged looks that clearly communicated something the humans weren't understanding. "Perhaps, Counselor," Vex said, his crystalline form flickering with nervous energy, "we should discuss the other creatures your expedition teams encountered on Earth." "What expedition teams?" Jake asked. "The ones we sent to study your solar system," Zelek explained. 3 separate missions over the past 500 years. We lost contact with all of them." "You lost contact?" Lisa looked up from her tablet. "What happened to them?" "We assumed they were killed by the predators," Minra said, her colors shifting to a sad blue. "The last transmission we received from the most recent team mentioned encountering massive predators with striped fur and enormous fangs." "Striped fur and fangs?" Jake thought for a moment. "That sounds like tigers." "Tigers?" Vex clicked his mandibles nervously. "They're big cats," Pete explained. "Really beautiful animals. They're endangered now, so there aren't very many left." "Endangered?" Cornick sounded confused. "You mean your species hunted them to near extinction?" "Unfortunately, yes," Dr. Cooper said sadly. "Humans haven't always been good at protecting wildlife. We've learned better in recent years." The aliens stared at the humans in stunned silence. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Zelek said slowly. "Your species hunted these creatures that our trained military teams couldn't survive encountering?" "Well, tigers are dangerous," Jake admitted. "But humans have been hunting them for thousands of years. We developed better weapons and hunting techniques." "What kind of weapons?" Cornock asked, his military training clearly taking over. "Spears, bows, and arrows, eventually guns," Lisa said. "Though most tiger hunting was done with traps and group tactics, your ancestors fought these predators with primitive weapons?" Vex's crystal form was pulsing with what might have been amazement. "How else would we do it?" Pete asked. "I mean, we didn't have advanced technology back then. We had to use what we could make." Dr. Parker was beginning to understand what was happening. She looked at the alien representatives, really looked at them, and started to see what Jake had noticed earlier. Despite their advanced technology and proud talk of surviving dangerous predators, they all seemed fragile, not physically, necessarily, but mentally. They approach danger like something to be avoided at all costs, not something to be confronted and overcome. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "When your people encounter these predators you told us about, what do you usually do?" "We defend ourselves," Cornax said, though he sounded less certain than before. "How?" "We barriers. Walls, energy shields, defensive positions. We create safe zones where the predators cannot reach us." "Do you ever fight them directly?" The silence that followed was telling. "Fighting them directly would be suicide," Vex said finally. "These are apex predators. They are designed by evolution to kill. The only rational response is to avoid them or hide from them." "But what if you can't avoid them?" Dr. Cooper asked. "What if one of these predators gets into your safe zone?" "Then we evacuate," Minra said, her colors shifting to indicate this should be obvious. "We retreat to backup positions until the predator leaves." "What if it doesn't leave?" "Then we abandon the area permanently," Zelek said. "It's better to lose territory than to lose lives." Jake was starting to understand something important. "How many of your people have actually died from predator attacks?" The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. "In the last 100 years, Cornick said. "Perhaps a dozen across all our species combined." "A dozen total?" Pete asked. "For all of your civilizations?" "Predator attacks are extremely rare," Vex explained. "We have very effective early warning systems and evacuation procedures." "How many humans die from predator attacks each year?" Zelek asked. Jake thought about it. "Maybe a few hundred worldwide. Mostly from things like snake bites in remote areas, or shark attacks, or people doing stupid things around dangerous animals." "Few hundred per year?" Minra's colors flashed to shocked purple. "And you still live on the same planet as these creatures?" "Where else would we live?" Lisa asked. "It's our home." Dr. Cooper pulled out his own tablet and began scrolling through some files. "I think I need to show you something," he said. "These are some statistics about human history and our relationship with predators." He found what he was looking for and held up the tablet. "This is data about human population growth over the past 10,000 years. As you can see, we've gone from maybe a few million people to over 8 billion. 8 billion? Cornak's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, and we did this while sharing the planet with all the predators we've been talking about." "But how?" Vex demanded. "How did you not only survive but thrive while living with such dangerous creatures?" "We learned," Jake said simply. "We adapted. We got better at fighting, better at hiding, better at building tools and weapons. We turned the tables. Turned the tables?" Zelek didn't understand the expression. "We stopped being prey," Lisa explained. "We became predators ourselves." The conference room fell completely silent. The aliens stared at the humans with expressions that ranged from amazement to horror, to something that might have been awe. "You became predators," Vex repeated slowly, his crystal form flickering with complex patterns of light. "Well, we always were predators," Dr. Cooper said. "Humans are omnivores. We eat meat, which means we hunt. We just got better at it over time." "You hunt your own food?" Minra asked, her colors cycling through shades the humans had never seen before. "Some of us do," Pete said. "Others buy meat from people who raise animals specifically for food." "You domesticated predators?" Cornac sounded like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "We domesticated prey animals," Jake corrected. "Cows, pigs, chickens, we raise them for food." "But you also domesticated some predators," Lisa added. "Dogs. For example, they're descended from wolves." "You live with wolves?" Vex's mandibles were clicking rapidly. "Domesticated wolves," Dr. Cooper explained. "We call them dogs. They're our companions. Many humans have them as pets." "You keep predators as pets?" Zelek's voice was barely audible. "They're not really predators anymore," Lisa said. "Thousands of years of selective breeding have made them loyal to humans. They protect us and help us hunt." "You made predators work for you," Cornick said, and there was something in his voice that sounded almost like respect. "We made them our partners," Jake corrected. "It's been a beneficial relationship for both species." Engineer Zaloft slowly emerged. From under the table, his large ears twitching nervously. The expedition teams that disappeared, he said quietly. They weren't killed by your predators, were they? The humans looked at each other. Probably not, Dr. Cooper said gently. If they landed in populated areas, they would have been found by humans. We would have tried to help them. But if they landed in wilderness areas, Lisa added, they might have encountered predators they weren't prepared for. Or, Pete said thoughtfully, they might have been so scared by seeing Earth's wildlife that they left without making contact. The aliens considered this possibility in silence. Your species, Zelek said finally, is unlike anything we have encountered in 2,000 years of space exploration. Different how? Jake asked. If the tension in the conference room was thick enough to cut with a knife, Jake could see that the aliens were struggling to process what they had just learned about humanity. Their entire understanding of how intelligent life should behave had been turned upside down. Amy Davis, the youngest member of the human crew, had been sitting quietly throughout the entire meeting. She was only 23 years old and had joined the mission as a communications specialist. Up until now, she had been content to let the senior officers handle the diplomacy, but something about the aliens' reactions was bothering her. She looked at the terrified faces around the table, then at the images of Earth's wildlife still displayed on Dr. Parker's tablet, and suddenly she understood what was wrong with this entire conversation. Wait a minute, Amy said, speaking up for. The first time, you're scared of bears and wolves? All eyes turned to her. Jake noticed that several of the aliens actually flinched when she spoke. Amy, Dr. Cooper said gently, maybe we should let the senior staff handle this. No, I need to understand something, Amy continued, ignoring the warning look from her captain. You guys are talking about these animals like they're some kind of unstoppable killing machines. But they're really not that dangerous. Not dangerous? General Cornick's voice came out as a mechanical wheeze. Those creatures could tear through my armor like paper. Maybe, Amy said with a shrug, but they probably wouldn't want to. Bears mostly eat fish and berries. Wolves hunt deer and elk. They're not interested in fighting armored aliens. She stood up and walked over to Dr. Parker's tablet, scrolling through the images. I mean, you're talking about the friendly ones. The silence that followed was deafening. The friendly ones? Commander Zelek repeated in a whisper. Yeah, Amy sighed, seemingly oblivious to the shock she was causing. Bears, wolves, big cats, they're all pretty predictable. They have territories, they have food sources, they have behaviors you can learn and work around. She swiped to a new image on the tablet. Now, if you want to talk about the animals that will actually hunt you, ... Jake realized what was about to happen and tried to stop her. Amy, maybe we should ... but it was too late. Amy had already found the image she was looking for. These are saltwater crocodiles, she said, holding up the tablet. They're ambush predators. They can hold their breath for over an hour, they can launch themselves out of water faster than you can blink, and they have a bite force of over 3,000 pounds per square inch. Dr. Minra's body flashed bright red and then went completely transparent. Engineer Zoloft made a squeaking sound and dove under the table again. Captain Nex's compound eyes seemed to be trying to look anywhere except at the tablet. Amy, Jake said firmly, put the tablet down. But I'm just getting started, Amy said, completely missing the alien's distress. Crocodiles are actually pretty easy to avoid if you know where they live. It's the ones you can't see coming that are really dangerous. She swiped to another image. Box jellyfish. They're almost completely transparent, so you can't see them in the water. Their tentacles can be up to 10 feet long, and their venom is so toxic that it can kill a human in less than 5 minutes. General Cornick's armor made a sound like all the systems were shutting down at once. Or great white sharks, Amy continued enthusiastically. They can smell blood from 5 miles away, they can swim up to 35 miles per hour, and they can breach completely out of the water when they attack. Amy, Dr. Parker said, gently taking the tablet away from her, I think that's enough. But Amy wasn't done. She had warmed up to her topic and was now addressing the aliens directly. The thing is, all of these animals have weaknesses. Crocodiles are ambush predators, so they're not very good at chasing prey over long distances. Box jellyfish can't swim very well, so they just drift with the current. Sharks have to keep moving to breathe, so they're actually pretty easy to track if you know what to look for. Easy to track? Zelek's voice was barely audible. Sure, Amy said. My dad used to take me shark diving when I was a kid. You just have to understand their behavior patterns and respect their space. The alien stared at her in horror. Your father took you swimming with sharks? Counselor Vex's crystal form was flickering erratically. It's perfectly safe if you know what you're doing, Amy said. Sharks don't really want to eat people. We're not part of their normal diet. Most shark attacks happen because the shark mistakes a human for a seal or a fish. Most shark attacks? Cornac repeated. How many shark attacks are there? Oh, not very many, Amy said casually. Maybe 100 or so worldwide each year. Only about 10 people actually die from shark attacks annually. 10 people die from shark attacks every year, and you still go swimming in the ocean? Vex's mandibles were clicking so rapidly they sounded like a machine gun. Well, yeah, Amy said. I mean, you're more likely to die from a bee sting than a shark attack. Bee sting? Minra's colors were cycling through shades of panic. Bees are these little flying insects, Dr. Cooper explained, shooting Amy a look that clearly said, stop talking. They're generally harmless unless you're allergic to their venom. They're venomous? Zolov's voice came from under the table. Only mildly, Amy said, unless you disturb their hive. Then they swarm and attack in groups of thousands. Thousands? Zelek whispered. Jake decided it was time to take control of the situation. Amy, why don't you go check on the communication systems? But I was just explaining about the really dangerous animals, Amy protested. I haven't even gotten to the poisonous snakes yet, or the spiders, or the ... Amy? Jake said firmly. Go now. Amy looked around the table at the terrified aliens and finally seemed to realize what she had done. Oh, she said quietly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare anyone. She left the room quickly, leaving the human delegation to deal with the aftermath of her enthusiastic presentation. The silence stretched on for nearly a minute before Commander Zelek spoke. She said those were the friendly ones, he said quietly. Bears and wolves are relatively predictable, Dr. Parker admitted. They're not actively hunting humans, so they're easier to coexist with. And the others? Cornick asked. The crocodiles and sharks and venomous insects? They're more dangerous, Jake said honestly. But humans have learned to live with them too. How? Vex's crystal form was pulsing with desperate curiosity. We study them, Lisa explained. We learn their habits, their habitats, their hunting patterns. We develop safety protocols and warning systems. We create barriers when necessary, but we don't let them drive us away from entire regions. You fight them? Cornick said. It wasn't a question. When we have to, Jake admitted, but mostly we just outsmart them. Your species has been doing this for thousands of years, Zelek said slowly. Learning to coexist with predators that would terrify our most advanced military units. It's just part of life on Earth, Dr. Cooper said. Every human child learns basic safety rules about wildlife. Don't run from bears, don't swim alone in areas with sharks, check your shoes for spiders in certain regions. Children learn this? Minra's colors had shifted to a sickly green. Of course, Pete said. How else would they stay safe? On our worlds, Vex said quietly, children are kept in completely safe environments until they reach adulthood. The idea of deliberately teaching them about predators would be considered cruel. But if they don't learn about predators, how do they handle dangerous situations? Lisa asked. They don't, Zoloff said, emerging from under the table. Adults handle all dangerous situations. Children are never exposed to any risk. That explains a lot, Jake said, more to himself than to the aliens. What do you mean? Zelek asked. Jake looked around the table at the alien representatives. They were all clearly intelligent, technologically advanced beings. But they were Also, he realized, completely unprepared for a universe that didn't always play by safe, predictable rules. You've never had to develop the kind of survival instincts that humans take for granted, he said. Your species evolved in environments where the best strategy was always to avoid conflict, to hide, to build barriers. And your species evolved in an environment where you had to fight back, Cornick said. We had to adapt, Dr. Parker said. We had to become smarter, faster, more creative than the things that were trying to eat us. You became predators yourselves, Vex said, his crystal form flickering with something that might have been awe. We became survivors, Jake corrected. We learned that the universe isn't always a safe place, and sometimes the only way to deal with danger is to face it head-on. The aliens absorbed this information in silence. Finally, Commander Zellick spoke. There's something we need to tell you, he said. Something about why we really invited you here. The humans waited. The Galactic Federation has been expanding peacefully. For 2,000 years, Zellick continued, we've colonized hundreds of worlds, established trade routes, built a civilization based on cooperation and mutual support. That sounds wonderful, Dr. Cooper said. It was, Zellick agreed. Until 6 months ago, when our deep space sensors detected something moving toward Federation space from the galactic core. What kind of something? Jake asked, though he had a feeling he already knew the answer. Ships, Cornick said. Lots of them, moving in a coordinated pattern. They're not responding to our communication attempts. The emergency session of the Galactic Federation High Council was unlike anything in their 2,000-year history. Representatives from all 12 member species had gathered in the massive council chamber aboard the Federation's capital station. The chamber was designed to inspire peace and cooperation, with gentle lighting and soothing colors that promoted calm discussion. Today, however, the atmosphere was anything but calm. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the center of the chamber, looking up at the circular arrangement of alien representatives. Each species had their own section, designed to accommodate their unique physical needs. The humans were given a small platform in the center, making them feel very much like they were on display. Honored representatives, Commander Zellick began, his voice echoing through the chamber's acoustic system, we have called this emergency session to address the approaching threat from the galactic core. Our guests from Earth have information that may be crucial to our survival. A murmur of various sounds, clicks, hums, chimes, and other alien communications rippled through the chamber. Jake could sense the fear and uncertainty in the room, even if he couldn't interpret all the different forms of alien body language. The approaching fleet has been monitored continuously for the past 6 months, General Cornock announced, his armored form standing at attention. They are now less than 2 years away from our outer colonies. We have attempted communication on all known frequencies, but they do not respond. What do we know about them? Asked a representative from the Harmony species, her crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy. Very little, admitted Dr. Minra, her jellyfish-like body shifting to worried shades of blue. The ships appear to be heavily armed and designed. For combat, they move in coordinated attack formations. Most disturbing, they seem to be coming from the Forbidden Zone. Jake had heard this term before during their earlier meetings. The Forbidden Zone was a region of space that the Federation had declared uninhabitable after losing several exploration missions there over the centuries. The Forbidden Zone contains hundreds of worlds with extreme predator populations, explained Captain Nex, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights. We have classified these worlds as too dangerous for colonization or even extended study. But now something is coming from those worlds, Zellick continued. Something that has mastered space travel despite living in environments we consider impossible to survive. All eyes turned to the human delegation. Jake felt the weight of their expectations and fears. You want us to help you fight them, Dr. Cooper said. It wasn't a question. We want you to teach us how to fight, corrected Counselor Vex. Our species have never developed the skills necessary for combat against true predators. We don't even know if these approaching beings are hostile, Dr. Parker pointed out. They might just be explorers like us. Explorers don't travel in battle formations, Cornick replied grimly. And they don't ignore all attempts at communication. Jake looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. Despite their advanced technology and impressive civilizations, they all shared the same fundamental weakness. They had never learned to fight back against danger. What do you want to know? He asked. Everything, Zellick said immediately. How do you prepare for combat? How do you face an enemy that wants to destroy you? How do you overcome the fear that comes with knowing you might die? Those are big questions, Jake said, but I'll try to answer them. He activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images of Earth began to appear, showing various scenes of human civilization and wildlife. The first thing you need to understand, Jake began, is that fighting isn't just about weapons or tactics. It's about mindset. When humans face danger, we don't just try to survive, we try to win. Win? Asked a representative from the Kepler species. What does that mean? It means we don't just want to avoid being destroyed, Dr. Cooper explained. We want to eliminate the threat so it can't hurt us or anyone else. But that's so aggressive, protested a Threnody Council member. Surely there are peaceful solutions to most conflicts. Sometimes there are, Jake agreed. But sometimes the other side isn't interested in peace. Sometimes they see you as prey, and the only way to survive is to prove them wrong. He changed the holographic display to show images of human history, ancient warriors, modern soldiers, and even civilians defending their homes. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years, he continued. We've learned that the best way to preserve peace is to be prepared for war. But how do you overcome the fear? Asked Engineer Zaloft, his small form trembling slightly. When I imagine facing one of Earth's predators, I feel terror that makes it hard to think clearly. Fear is useful, Lisa said, stepping forward. It keeps you alert and ready to react, but you can't let it control you. Human children learn to manage fear from a very young age, Dr. Cooper added. We teach them to face their fears gradually, building confidence through experience. You deliberately expose children to danger? The question came from multiple representatives at once, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of shock. Controlled danger, Jay clarified. We teach them to swim in pools before they go in the ocean. We let them climb small trees before they try tall ones. We show them how to identify dangerous plants and animals. By the time a human reaches adulthood, Amy said, speaking up from her position with the communications team, they've already learned to assess risks and make quick decisions under pressure. But what about weapons? Cornick asked. Surely your advantage comes from superior technology? Sometimes, Jake admitted. But humans have been fighting with primitive weapons for most of our history. Spears, bows, swords, tools that require skill and courage to use effectively. The technology isn't as important as the willingness to use it, Dr. Parker added. A weapon is only as good as the person holding it. And what about strategy? Asked a representative from the Vorthax species. How do you coordinate attacks? Against superior enemies? We adapt, Jake said simply. We study our enemies, learn their weaknesses, and find ways to exploit them. He changed the display to show various military formations and tactics throughout human history. Sometimes we use overwhelming force. Sometimes we use stealth and surprise. Sometimes we use deception to make the enemy think we're stronger or weaker than we really are. But the key, Dr. Cooper said, is that we never give up. Even when things look hopeless, humans keep fighting. Why? The question came from Commander Zellick, his voice filled with genuine curiosity. Because that's what predators do, Jake replied. They never stop hunting, never stop trying to survive. If you want to defeat a predator, you have to become a better predator. The chamber fell silent as the implications of this statement sank in. You're asking us to change our fundamental nature, Counselor Vex said finally. To become something we've never been. I'm asking you to survive, Jake said. If these approaching ships are from predator worlds, then they're probably coming here because they see you as prey. The only way to change that is to prove them wrong. But how do we start? Asked Dr. Minra. Our species have no experience with combat. We don't even have proper weapons. We can teach you, Dr. Parker offered. But it won't be easy. You'll need to overcome millions of years of evolutionary programming that tells you to run from danger. And you'll need to accept that some of you might die in the process, Jake added grimly. That's the cost of fighting back. The chamber erupted in various forms of alien discussion. Some representatives seemed horrified by the prospect of violence. Others appeared to be considering the alternatives. What if we're wrong? Asked a Threnody representative. What if these approaching beings are peaceful? Then we'll have learned valuable skills that might save us from the next threat, Jake replied. The universe is a dangerous place. Earth taught us that a long time ago. And if we're right, Zelek asked, then we'll be ready for them, Jake said confidently. Humans have been dealing with predators for thousands of years. We know how to fight, how to win, and how to survive. But more importantly, Dr. Cooper added, we know how to teach others to do the same. The vote was closer than Jake had expected. 7 species voted to accept human military training, while 5 voted to continue trying peaceful solutions. But it was enough. Over the following months, the Federation would be transformed. Human military advisors would travel to dozens of worlds, teaching alien soldiers how to fight. Federation scientists would work with human engineers to develop new weapons and defensive systems. Most importantly, an entire generation of alien children would grow up learning that sometimes the only way to preserve peace was to be prepared for war. When the ships from the Galactic Core finally arrived, they would find something they had never encountered before, a coalition of species that had learned to fight back. The age of humanity in the galaxy had begun. And the universe would never be the same. 2 years later, Jake stood on the bridge of the Federation's first human-designed warship, watching as the alien fleet approached. Beside him, Commander Zelek monitored the communications array, ready to make one final attempt at peaceful contact. Still no response to our transmissions, Zelek reported. Then we do this the hard way.